involved indirectly in talks between Iran and the US over Tehran's nuclear program set to begin in Geneva, adding he believed Tehran wanted to make a deal. Tensions are soaring ahead of the talks, with the US deploying a second aircraft carrier to the Middle East. According to sources, the US military is preparing for the possibility of a sustained military campaign if the talks do not succeed. Asked about the prospects for a deal, Trump said Iran sought tough negotiations but learned the consequences of such a hardened stance last summer when the US bombed Iranian nuclear sites.
What are you expecting from these Iran talks in Geneva tomorrow?
So I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what can happen. It's been typically, Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators, or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators, because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential, and we had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable. They want to make a deal.
Have you been told that a deal is next to impossible?
No, I think they want to make a deal. I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal.
Meanwhile, Iran has launched live-fire naval exercises in the Strait of Hormuz in preparation for potential security and military threats in the strategic waterway. The drill, called Smart Control of the Strait of Hormuz, is led by the naval forces of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps under the supervision of IRGC Commander-in-Chief Major General Mohammed Pakpour. We are now being joined by Professor Rowan Gunartuna, who is an international affairs expert, joining us here from Singapore. Thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX World. Does an indirect involvement from Trump signal confidence in US negotiators for these talks, or a desire to maintain influence while avoiding public accountability?
Ellie, what we are witnessing is that the United States is convinced that Iran will not negotiate sincerely. But Trump himself wants to give peace a chance. And that is why he has always said that he will give a priority to negotiations. But while these negotiations are going on, what President Trump has done is he has directed the Department of War, previously known as the Department of Defense, to move very significant US air and naval assets. In fact, 1/3 of the US Navy is currently deployed in the region of Iran. So they are able to respond very decisively to neutralize the capabilities of Iran, and if necessary, even conduct a regime change operation, that is either to do extraction of Ayatollah Khamenei or to eliminate him. What is important to understand is that war is inevitable in Iran because of the view that Iranians have been always trying to buy time and to continue with their nuclear, their ballistic missile, cruise missile programs, as well as to continue to fund and support and train the proxies such as the Hezbollah, the Ansarullah in Yemen, and the Hashd-e-Sha'b in Iraq. So as long as Iran continues to engage in such activities that threaten regional peace and security, US and Israel, as well as the European countries, will act militarily against Iran. That is the direction we are all heading to now.
And can indirect involvement by US President Donald Trump still shape the tone and the outcomes of the negotiations with Iran?
Yes, certainly, because Trump's comments are very threatening to the Iranian regime. They know that Trump is serious, and they know that Trump will use force the same way Trump deployed the B-52 bombers last year to degrade Iran's nuclear program. And also the Iranians know that Israel will act. But there is no regret on the part of Iran about continuing their nuclear program to build a functional nuclear weapon. There is no regret on the part of Iran with regard to its missile program, because just a few hours ago, Iran released another video threatening the regional countries with a missile. And of course, Iran continues to work with terrorist entities such as the Hezbollah and other groups, trying to restore them even after their capabilities were degraded. So with this mindset, the only way to contain Iran is to use military force.
And how do you think Tehran are interpreting these indirect US engagements?
Indirect US engagement is vital. It is because US has the best intelligence after Israel when it comes to Iran. So the US will continue to brief the International Atomic Energy Agency of the current state of nuclear enrichment in Iran. They will also brief various governments in Europe about Iran's missile program. And of course, the United States and Israel will both brief the governments in Europe, although they are also considerably aware of Iran's support to revive and to sustain the various terrorist proxies Iran has been supporting for a very long time in the region.
Thank you, Professor Rowan. Don't go too far, as we will join back with you very shortly. President Donald Trump has called for Ukraine to negotiate fast with Russia. Kremlin